This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Kingston's Tree Commission meeting. Today is September 22nd, 2020. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Kingston and organizer for this virtual meeting. Before we begin our meeting, I would like to go over a few guidelines to help navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that any members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As the organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Commission members and city staff will control their own mute button. As good practice, we ask that you mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a commission member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hand. As the organizer, I will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. The commission member will then unmute themselves, state their name, and speak clearly, muting after finished. All meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website at a later date. If you have any audio issues, send a text to the following number, 845-443-0416. Be aware that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. Again, the number to text is 845-443-0416. Thank you for your patience, and we now begin our meeting at 3:34 p.m. I'm going to first start by calling the meeting to order and recognizing the individuals on the commission that are present. Vince Archer. Can you just say here, Vince?
Here.
Okay. Sarah Wank.
Here.
John Duvall.
Here.
Okay. We are waiting for Tebby Collins. If she joins us, we will introduce her. Again, my name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. We have Kyla DJ, who's our Assistant Planner, with us today. And we also have the Alderman Jeff Ventura Morel, who is our Common Council Liaison. Hi, Jeff. Okay, so we are going to get started. We do have two applications to review. I don't know, are Mr. and Mrs. Lowe on a call for 160 North Manor? If you are, could you identify yourself?
All I heard was identify yourself. This is Tanya. I'm on the line.
Okay, thank you, Tanya.
Hi.
Okay, all right, I don't see them. I'll give them a few minutes. I noticed that Tebby has joined us now. So that makes our tree commission members that are seated full and present. And we have George Profis that joined us from our DEC. He is our DEC advisor, which is great. So I'm going to ask Mr. and Mrs. Rogers if you would unmute yourselves and put yourselves back on video. We will discuss 161 North Manor Avenue.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you.
Hi, everyone have you all had a chance to review the application for 161 North Manor Avenue? You should have received it in the mail.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Rogers are here. Do you want to just briefly explain your application to the commission?
Okay. We had a tree from across the street at Mr. Lowe's, we referred to earlier, at 160 North Manor, uproot a very huge tree with several big trunks, and it fell directly across the street and extended to our porch, front porch. It also, in the process of falling, it stripped off part of two Bradford pear trees that I have at the curb, and broke some branches off, some main branches, and cut out some gashes in one of them pretty severely. Therefore, I was petitioning requesting the committee to approve removing them. I probably will be putting something else in the future in that spot. I like trees myself, as long as they don't fall on my house.
He might also tell you that we destroyed our front, the tree that was in our front yard completely. That had
Right.
Japanese maple. So that one's gone. The other two are in good shape.
Survived, yeah. So I don't know if any of the committee has had an opportunity to go over and view the two trees that we mentioned in the application or not, but you could
Don't
determine.
see anything, no. Does the committee have any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Rogers?
Hi, this
John?
is John Duvall. Where are the trees that that were damaged that you want? Are they street trees or are they on your property?
There are street trees
They are 2 feet.
by the curb,
Okay,
between the sidewalk and the curb.
okay. All right. I haven't seen the site, so I don't have any other questions, but I'll look at the site.
Okay. There were, John, if you refer to your packet, there were photographs in the packet that you might refer to.
Unfortunately, I'm not at home and I don't have that with me. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
So if you
Vince,
want me
do you have a question?
Well, I can give you some more details if you'd like.
Sure.
One of the trees, one main branch is broken off, and so it's kind of lopsided. There's part of the tree's broken off on one side. On the other tree, a big gash is, I don't know where it broke a limb off and it pulled from the main trunk. And there's a huge gash in that main trunk. And it also broke off another main branch coming off of that trunk as well. The trees are still standing, but my humble opinion is that it's going to be difficult to get them to look right and to come back.
Do you know how old the trees are?
I'm sorry?
How old?
Do you know how old the trees are?
I think they're, I think I put them in before 95. So,
Sure. And they're Bradford pears?
Bradford pear, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
mean, they're a
there's
very
next-
short-term tree. And at this age, they tend to get very weak and top heavy. If there was going to be removal and a replanting of a better tree, I would be behind that.
Okay,
It's not worth spending a lot of time and energy on a Bradford pear as a street tree.
right, okay. Anyone else have a question?
No, this is Vince. I went by the site when the original tree went down. And so I saw the damage across the street as well. So I concur with the removal.
Okay. Sarah, any comment? No? Okay. Tebby?
Yeah, I agree with what John said. I'd be happy to let them take them down and replace them with something that's better than a Bradford pear.
Okay. Does a commission member want to put that in the form of a motion, please?
I'll move that we sign the permit to let them remove the trees on North Manor.
To remove and replace
Yes.
Yes.
with something other than the Bradford pear, correct?
Can you
Yes.
recommend what we might use instead of a Bradford pear?
I'm sure we can recommend. Yes, John, would you like to make a recommendation as our arborist on a good tree to replace it with? You can maybe take a look at the site first and then give a recommendation.
That would be appreciated. really.
Yes. The neighbor next door has also two Bradford pears, and they're in healthy condition.
Yeah.
So that's
I'll
part
be
of
happy to look at the site and weigh in, Suzanne.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, can you repeat that?
I'll be happy to look at the site and weigh in with half a dozen choices.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right,
Okay.
that sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to call for the vote. Actually, I need a second on Sarah's motion. Can I have a second? John? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to call for the vote. It's to approve the removal of the trees, recommend replanting both with a species that John will give multiple choices of. So I will start with Sarah. Sarah? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, John, yes. Vince?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And Teddy?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. You
And
want
I
us-
will write you a letter. I'll let John take a look and give me your choice, give me the choices, and I'll put that all together in one communication to you, okay?
I have
Thank
one
you.
question. Is there a time limit on how soon I should have to do this? Because I've got some other expenses I had, obviously, with this other tree falling that I have to take care of. And also, I've thought about replacing my Japanese maple too with something. And it's getting pretty expensive when you start putting up more trees. So I don't know whether you have a time limit in mind when you suggested that I replace it, as I thought I think I will. Or not.
Okay, well, I'm willing to, I mean, it's up to the commission, but I'm willing to work with you if we could get it in maybe by the spring of next year.
Okay.
Would that be reasonable?
Yeah.
Mhm. That
Is
sounds
that
That's what I was going to
reasonable with the
suggest.
commission?
okay.
Okay,
That sounds good to me. This is Tebby.
okay, all right.
That's good.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
Okay. And you want us to sign out and get out?
Yeah, you're all done, unless you
We're
want to
done.
hang out and listen.
All right. Thank you, though.
I will.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
See you, Devine.
Again, I'm going to call for Mr. and Mrs. Lowe. If you're on as a caller, would you please identify yourself? Okay. Since they are not on, we do have other guests that will go on forward to. We have Sean Coster and Lisa Whalen, I hope I pronounced it right, with us to talk about the Franklin Street Complete Streets. I'm turning it over to you, Sean.
All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
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 Thank you, Suzanne. My name is Sean Coster. I work in the engineering department here in the city of Kingston as a project manager for different infrastructure and transportation projects, one of which is the Franklin Street Complete Streets project. And with me today, I have Lisa Wallen from the engineering firm MJ Engineering and Land Surveying of Clifton Park. They are selected as our consulting engineers for this project. So for any specific questions, I'll probably hand them off to Lisa to help with her assistance. So I have just a quick presentation just to really briefly go over the project, but really what we're looking at is feedback on trees related in the entire streetscape project here. And I would like to also add that Sarah has been a very active participant in our project advisory committee, coming to our meetings and really speaking up for the trees throughout the entire process. So just want to thank her for her service on that committee as well. So this project began a couple of years ago. So it was a grant application from the city to the DEC, and it just has a couple simple objectives, really just trying to create a safe corridor for different forms of transportation, really enhance the aesthetic qualities of the street, and maintain or improve upon the existing historic districts. So as some of you might know, this project is really the entire length of Franklin Street from Wall Street to Broadway. And there are 2 blocks of this street that are within the historic district. So that involves making sure that if we are going to replace the sidewalks, they are bluestone and those types of considerations. So really what we're trying to do is just improve this entire corridor for all forms of transportation, really trying to focus on pedestrians as much as we can. And, looking out at the site today, there's a lot of constraints. Franklin Street is a fairly narrow roadway with a lot of properties and features that abut the sidewalks directly. There's some pretty old trees that are buckling the sidewalks in some locations, as you can see from these pictures. And there's some fairly old pedestrian infrastructure as far as the sidewalks go. So we really want to really revamp the whole streetscape. There's just to kind of give you a really brief overview as to what we're looking at right now. We don't have a finalized set of designs. We're about ready to enter the public outreach phase for this project. So I just wanted to give you just kind of a brief introduction as to what we're looking at. This is at the Kingston Library, really just replacing in kind what's there. One option is removing a side of parking from the street, could be either side, to create wider lanes to make it safer for bicyclists. And then replanting trees and adding trees where there aren't. So these little green, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but there's the green fluffs there are proposed tree planting locations. And this would be kind of the other design alternative. We have that red paint there is really just meant to tell people not to park there, to increase visibility at the intersections. And we have new curb ramps where the sidewalks enter the asphalt and new crosswalk locations. So we do have some constraints, as I mentioned earlier, on Franklin Street. We've got overhead power lines. In our designs, we're designing for a 4-foot buffer area between the sidewalk and the curb on the street. And we do have bluestone sidewalks in the historic district. And as far as the tree planting locations go, we all know that bluestone isn't necessarily as resilient to tree roots growing up next to them as a concrete sidewalk might be. So specifically regarding trees and this streetscape project, right now, the way we're looking at it with these conceptual designs is we would potentially need to remove 16 trees to be able to build 5-foot wide ADA accessible sidewalks down the entire length of the corridor. And what we would propose is 47 tree plantings once the project is done. This would be to create kind of consistency of trees throughout the entire corridor. If you go there now, you notice there's more trees closer to Wall Street than there are to Broadway. This would be to more evenly distribute the trees throughout the entire corridor. And I just kind of included a little snippet there of what's in the current tree code, knowing that it seems like these days maybe you guys are more likely to provide recommendations to groups. And that's really why I'm here today. So we have a couple specific questions for you all as a commission as far as the species you might recommend, knowing the constraints on Franklin Street. How many different species you might recommend as far as would you prefer 1 tree species for the entire corridor, or 2 tree species, or maybe 1 species under the power lines and 1 species where there's maybe more area to grow upwards and you're not going to be interfering with utilities. And then just if you have any recommendations on how we might involve the public in the selection of these tree species, recognizing that you guys kind of are the experts in trees and streetscape trees for the city. If you feel like you can recommend a appropriate set of species for us, then maybe we don't need to ask the community. But these are kind of my questions for you all. I apologize if I moved through that fairly quickly, but I did just kind of want to get to these questions that I have for you all. So I think that's it. I don't know if anybody wants to chime in or what I imagine, I don't need an answer today. We're not planting these trees tomorrow. However, you guys would like to communicate with us as far as the questions I have here.
Sarah, I'd ask you first, any comments that you might have since you've been directly involved in the project as the Tree Commission's representative on the committee meetings. Is there anything that you would like to add or say to the commission members?
No, I mean, I think that when we met with the community early on in this, it seems like pre-COVID, we met in a room somewhere. The community was, I mean, there were sort of two main things they really were interested in. They wanted better sidewalks and they wanted more trees. So I like the idea of maybe involving the community to some degree, but you can't, too many cooks on a project like that. Maybe it would be an opportunity for some of us to just take a walk along Franklin with John and, look at where the wires are and where various things are and come up with some ideas, because there isn't a lot of time pressure.
Yeah, I agree with Sarah. Taking a walk with one or two others would be a great idea, because it's not only about the street, it's about the canopies that are around there, and that will help inform best decisions, and maybe picking smaller trees or what the whole neighborhood needs, not just the one line. So I think a walk would be helpful. I did look up very quickly at your list, Sean. It's a great list, yeah, without seeing the block and the stuff, I haven't seen the block. So it would be good to take a walk, and I'm happy to sign up for that anytime, Sarah or anybody else.
I'll send out an email and we can work on that over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Great. Well, that would be very helpful for us. And, I think.
This is Pep.
Tebby, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I agree with what John and Sarah have said, and just to more than one species would be nice. And the idea of, depending on what the canopy is and located, the idea of more than one species. And I know we just talked about some trees for another location, so I don't know whether those would be appropriate for street trees. I guess that was more of a, when we talked about the sycamore tree by the pool, but so that those were the site. But I was just thinking those were some other suggestions that came up. We had that other list, so.
But you definitely want to do a mono planting. You'd want to have a mix.
Take another look at that other list, whether any of those would be appropriate.
Yeah, but no mono. I wouldn't recommend any mono planting. It'd be a variety of species.
Great. Well, we would like to incorporate whatever feedback you guys can provide to us. You're the street tree experts and certainly discuss it much more than I do. So I look forward to either taking a walk with some of you or receiving the feedback that you all have.
Hey,
And
Sean, that
Sean-
would be great. I'm sorry, Suzanne. It'd be great to take a walk. If you were there, it'd be great to take a walk all together. And I noticed on the drawing, I only saw 4 trees.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a drawing that shows where this, was it 16? Or how many are you going to plant?
47.
47 trees is what's in the current plans.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Here's
Sean,
six.
this is Vince Archer. I got a quick question. The 4-foot buffer areas between the curb and the sidewalk, that would be the place for tree plantings?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Sean, adding on to Vince's question, the 4-foot buffer area is between the curb and the bluestone, so that's all plantable.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
That's a good size.
Yeah, that's good.
And
Yeah,
where there are no trees within that 4 feet, it's going to be seeded, correctly? There'll be seed, and maybe some other street amenities, Sean?
at this time, we're really just looking at grass. There might be a few like bike racks or something in front of some of the the community center or the library, but really would just be a consistent grass buffer throughout the corridor.
Okay.
Sean, I have another question. This is Vince Archer. When you came up with a number of 47 trees, did you do a safe dig to validate that that number is a valid number for that Franklin Street corridor?
I don't believe we've done a dig safe yet, but we do have a pretty good survey of the utilities in the area. I'll let Lisa answer that question.
I was going to say, we do dig safe is at the time of construction. We do a design ticket when we're creating our utility surveys. So it's essentially the same thing. They come out and paint the utilities on the ground, and our survey crew picks them up. And we get phone numbers to contact the utility owners, and we request their as-built to confirm what was marked out. So it's pretty close to the construction level dig safe, I would say.
Yeah, so we do know where the gas lines and the water lines are that go to these houses. We wouldn't plant a tree directly over those lines.
Okay.
Well,
Sean,
the other question I have is, that's an old neighborhood, and I'm not sure about the sewer lines. They're usually like a cast iron, which would be susceptible to, depending on the conditions of them, to tree roots.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how you validated that portion. But,
Yeah, there aren't comprehensive maps on sewer, private sewer laterals that enter the city system, so we wouldn't necessarily have access to that. We have done investigations that show that the city's main, down Franklin Street's in good condition, but as far as knowing the materials of each residence's sewer lateral and where they exactly are, that would be really difficult to find out.
Oh, yes, typically it wouldn't be PVC. I guess that it's cast iron, and they're more susceptible to roots. That's the only comment.
Sean, I had a thought too, for your public outreach. In the city of Kingston's charter and code, the property owners that abut the public right-of-ways are responsible for the ongoing maintenance of the street trees. Have you done the outreach to those property owners, because they ultimately would be the responsible party for the ongoing maintenance going forward after they've been installed, the watering and things like that, just to make sure that they're alive? Or is there a component built into the grant to at least get them started and stable and growing well?
Yeah, that's a really great point, and we haven't reached out to individual property owners or residents if they're renters as to who would maintain these trees. But, and Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, but we do plan on having a maintenance line item in our construction budget so that they are cared for a year after construction, something similar to that.
That's correct.
But I think it's important. I mean, this might be a great discussion for this group at a later time is, what if landowners didn't want street trees? Would we not plant them on Franklin Street because people don't want them? Or, what would that look like? Currently there's a lot of properties without trees on them in front of, on Franklin Street. Frankly, there's not that many. But the residents have expressed an interest in having street trees.
Right. I'd hate to see that, unfortunately, but I mean, we run across it as the tree commission. It comes across our table all the time that, the property owners believe that it should be the city's responsibility because they are located within the public right of way. But the charter reads differently. So we have to enforce that. And I'm just looking down the road in, 15 years or so, that could become problematic for whoever's sitting in the seat.
Absolutely. And we see the same thing with sidewalks as well. On Franklin Street, we'll be installing bluestone sidewalks and concrete sidewalks. And inherently, bluestone sidewalks will be more of a maintenance burden on the property owners than the concrete sidewalks. But, based on the city code where our hands are tied as far as the materials that we use, even if the landowners wish to not have bluestone installed on their property. That's not a decision we can make.
I think it's great. And I think once everything is done and in place, that people will be proud of it and will take ownership of it without question, because, it will result in a very nice aesthetic and improvement for their street and their property as well, independently.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi guys, this is John Duval. I think it's a great thing to consider because at this time we're discussing, 15, 20 years from now, what will the tree be like? And there are choices we can make right now, like just discarding a whole batch of trees that'll be a headache. Like a corkscrew willow is a headache. It's beautiful, it's planted, blah, blah, blah. But in 15 years, it's just a disaster for pipelines, for tree wires, for everything. So as we go through this list and walk the street, one of the top considerations for me would be, because you can't always rely on people to take care of things. It's like, what's a good tough street choice?
Mm-hmm.
Some do well no matter what you do to them, and some do very poorly no matter how well you care for them. So.
John, do you want to take part in this stroll along Franklin? As we said, you want me to put you on the email?
Yeah, I would love to.
Oh, no, Sean, I know you have to go.
Oh, yeah, no, Sean definitely should.
I would love to go on the walk. Thank you for the invitation.
I'll send out an email in the next day or two. And set it
Okay,
up.
good.
Thank
And
you.
Sean, are the plans on the website so that the committee members could take a look at them? Do you have a website page where they're posted?
If anyone on this group has been on the engagekingston.com website, this project does have like a sub page. We don't have any design, construction designs for this project yet. We do have some preliminary alternatives that we've gone through with the project advisory committee, and that will be presented to the public very soon. And so they will be on that website when we get to that stage, which I anticipate being shortly.
Okay. Good. Any other questions from the commission members?
What was the name of that website again?
It's engagekingston.com.
Okay.
And you will see links to the Arts and Cultural Master Plan, to the redesign of the intersection at Pine Grove and Broadway, this project, and other projects that the city's engaging the public in. So there's surveys and pictures and designs that you can take part in for all the projects we're working on.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for the information. I look forward to meeting some of you in person, and we're hoping that this project is constructed next spring and summer. So hopefully these trees are in the ground in 2021.
Great.
All right. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so I guess we'll go back. I don't see the Lowe's here yet, but we can, I think, handle that without them. This is 160 North Manor. You received this information in your packet as well. As you recall, we approved the removal of one street tree, and you heard Mr. and Mrs. Rogers say that that was the tree that unfortunately fell before the Lowe's could get to it. Mother Nature beat them to it, so to speak. It's not because they were not in progress of getting anybody to address it. They were, and it's very unfortunate. So in light of that, they've taken care of the aftermath there and taken care of the sidewalk, and they will be replanting another tree in its place. However, there is a second maple tree now that they have equal concern for. Since going through that experience, it is about 15 to 20 feet away from where this one was located, right on the street as well. Very similar situation and circumstances. It's not as bad as the first one was. However, they are seeking to remove that and replant that one as well, as precaution. And I would agree with their request. They obviously have some good, fair concern. And it's a very similar tree and has also experienced some loss of limbs over the past few months. So that's what they are seeking. Any questions?
And that address for the tree that they're considering is 160 also? Or is it
What?
across the street?
It's across the street. The tree at 160 is what caused the problems for 161, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. And this is the second tree on the Lowe's property that they would like to remove.
I concur with that one too.
But then
Okay.
they'll replant also?
They will replant, yes, their intention was to replant the first one. They will replant the second one too with another species. They were both maples.
Yeah, that was a big tree.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, this is Tebby. I would concur with taking it down. I mean, it looks like they've taken a lot of branches off the middle, and now you have these 2 branches on either side. And if the other one fell, it seems this makes sense to take it down and put something new there. And we could, and I would recommend that we, make suggestions as we have in the past for what they might want to replant with.
Okay. Maybe John, when you're out looking at the 161 North Front Street, or North Manor rather, you could look on the other side of the street and make recommendations as well. And
Absolutely.
okay. So can I have a commission member put that into a motion?
This is Tebby. I recommend that we approve the removal of the tree at 160 North Manor Avenue, with the idea that they will replace the tree. Are they going to replace it with 2 trees since one fell, or just?
They originally were going to replace the first one. So yes, they're still going to do that, and they will replace this one as well. So it will be 2 new ones going in.
So, and recommend that they replace trees, and we will give them some recommendations.
Yes. Okay, can I have a second on that motion, please?
This is Vince, I second.
Okay. All right, so I will call for the vote. Tebby,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
John.
Yes, please.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, so now we'll go quickly through, I think we can go quickly through the rest of the agenda. I did some follow-up with our DPW. There were about 17 trees that between July and our August meeting that I asked them to go back and recheck. Some of which I know are in the works of being arranged with tree services to be removed. And the others we have not heard anything from. We typically give them 14 days to get back to us. I have not heard, so I'm going to be sending out second notice letters to all of them. I have the list somewhere, but I can send the list out to everybody, but we pretty much covered all of the ones, that we had been speaking about. And so we'd like to get them addressed. A couple of the ones that we asked to be pruned were pruned, so we can take those off the list. Outside of that, we'd like to get these taken care of. Some of them are worse than others. So that's just an update there. 70 West Chestnut Street was an emergency referral by DPW. They've gotten 2 notices, 1 certified. There has been no action there, so I am going to refer that one to the Corporation Council next. That's my next step for them to pursue action. Wilbur Avenue. We got a complaint from the property owner at 306 Wilbur Avenue about trees across the way from them. After looking at it more closely, it's been determined by myself, John Duval, and Ryan Kuhn at DPW that those trees are on city-owned property. So we're going to be handling that internally. However, John, do you want to just go over what your opinion on those trees were? They're very tall pine trees. And so I can understand the individual's concern about the high windstorms that we've been experiencing in our area lately. John, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. You know, nobody has a crystal ball, but those trees are very, very tall. And the tops of them are, as with other trees we've discussed, kind of like a sail, and they're in a row. So they're not in a stand, really. So if the wind hits them from the right, pardon?
Excuse me, I have to leave the meeting a minute. I got
Okay.
somebody coming in. Thanks.
Okay.
Anyway, they are very tall, and they are pine, which is a very soft wood, and they do snap. You know, I looked at the trees, and I also looked at up the block. There are two more tree trunks, exactly that size. One's pine, one I think is ash, that have been cut down below the power lines, and I'm wondering if they blew over and were cleaned up at some point. But if one of those pine trees, and it looks like the one closest to the road is on kind of like a hill going down to where the water runs off, would be the most likely to snap, and that would take out the power lines, and there's a junction box on the telephone pole. I don't think it would take out the house across the street, because I don't think it would snap at the bottom. But as I said, I don't have a crystal ball. And what I emailed you this morning was, you know, if you get in touch with, I don't know how these things work, but Central Hudson could just top the tree, take 30% out of the top, and it would alleviate all those concerns. So,
Okay.
you know, I don't know if it's in their limits of 10 feet and 6 feet and 8 feet, but if that tree was topped by a third, then it would be a lot safer.
Okay. So I will follow up then with Ryan and the mayor on this one. And I'll also reach out to our contact at Central Hudson to ask them if there's any way that they might be able to assist us, or at least to take a look at it first on, you know, on our behalf. Okay. So that's all I have on that. And then just some other general business. The budget for 2021, I had our meeting with the mayor where I went through what I had put in as a request. The mayor agreed to retain a line for tree planting at a no share cost program for residents. So he's going to be putting in, as of the date of that meeting, $10,000 in a line that the commission will be able to use to plant trees to property owners throughout the city of Kingston. It'll be first come, first serve, and we'll have to do a little press release on it next year and evaluate the applications when they come in. Property owners will have to be responsible for the ongoing maintenance and so on and so forth. So that line is still in the budget. We also were successful in getting the mayor to agree to add a new line in for a certified arborist training and the test. He left to put $1,000 in for that line. I'm hoping to have 2 existing municipal employees certified as arborists with that money, and they will be able to not only, you know, do projects for the city, but also to assist with John. John has been doing an extraordinary amount of work for us, and he's gone above and beyond just the tree commission. You know, we've called upon him to do a lot, and so this will give him a little flexibility, but it's also good to have, you know, more than one certified arborist being able to weigh in. And if John is not available, another individual we should be able to ask someone else. So it'll give us a lot more freedom. So Jeff, I'm going to ask you as our liaison to support that budget when it comes to the council floor. Okay. Arbor Day. I guess, Kyla, do you want to talk a little bit about with the grant and the Arbor Day and the program that we're looking at doing there for next year?
Well, I don't know about Arbor Day specifically, but we did apply for the $1,000 tree planting grant, which everyone knows because I harassed you all with emails repeatedly for about 3 days. So if we get that $1,000, we would be planting one large tree up at Dietz Stadium near the pool. One of the requirements for applying was that we hold a community event or some sort of celebration on trees. So I think we went around a little bit and are going to go with something in February. I talked with Summer Smith about doing kind of like a month-long focus on, loving trees, something to do with Valentine's Day, and kind of a beginning of, people start to hope for spring by then. John agreed or volunteered to do, if the mayor's radio show is up and running, to do maybe a radio show with him talking about trees, and then we would do some publications in the mayor's newsletter. But those are all things that we could discuss and maybe come up with other ideas. They will let us know if we get the $1,000 by the end of September. So we'd like to plant the tree this fall and have it in for next year. As far as Arbor Day, this year, we were supposed to do it in combination with the Earth Fair, and that obviously was canceled. I assume that maybe we would think about doing that again if, everything's up and running by April. Hopefully it will be. So we can talk about that.
Okay. And we have applied for the renewal for the Tree City, Kyla, or are we working on that?
Working on that. That's due in December, end of December. And also the other grant that we applied for to do tree plantings, the large, $50,000.
Right.
That was postponed under COVID with the whole state budget situation. But I had just heard from someone recently that there is a possibility that those could still be awarded. I don't know. George is on the line. I don't know if he has any insight to that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, George.
Yeah, okay. I was just told that they released half of the money, so that you should be getting some kind of notification. But hopefully you won't be getting some kind of notification. So you understand the first notification will be to those that didn't get it.
Okay. Well, we haven't gotten anything so far.
That's good. That's good news. So, and then there's talk that the other half may come in the future, and that you might not have to reapply. That they're going to extend because only half the money was released, because only last year's money was released. So far so good.
Okay.
Great.
And that. But by the way, while I have you here, I did have a comment. I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't sure whether you could hear me or not. On the discussion with Franklin Street.
Yes.
I don't know whether they're looking into. A lot of the spaces are 4 feet wide and all that, but whether they're looking into structural soil, and the idea that bluestone is more expensive, well, it's also actually more movable, and structural soil could be put underneath it or something else. I don't know how much money they have, so that there might be positive things with bluestone here too.
I think they're taking that into account, George, and it's Sarah. And there's only 2 blocks that are going to be bluestone because
Oh, okay.
those are the only 2 blocks that are in the historic district. And the rest will be concrete, which I'm hoping maybe we can at least make it a little darker so it will blend in a little better. But
Yeah, use an
Uh,
additive.
Well,
yeah. But
well,
yeah,
the
I think
idea there is always,
the engineering firm seems pretty smart about that kind of stuff, like making sure that we don't just end up here again in a few years with buckled bluestone sidewalk.
yeah, so that there's a good base that under the cement or the bluestone that might help to get to some of the front yards, and that. So good, great, okay.
And I'll mention that to Sean too.
I don't have much to say because I'm listening to all of you and you're doing such a heck of a job. You don't need anybody like me and doing anything anymore.
Yes, we do.
You don't get out of that easy, George. Yeah.
You brought very good news today, George, about the grant money. So we at least there's hope there. So that's good news.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we are continuing to work behind the scenes in for the future to expand the money into carbon sequestration and a low in. Actually, I don't know if you have does your inventory have an assessment of the number of trees that you're short, and has that changed because of all the construction? Has it, because what we're looking at is areas that are environmental justice, because that's the key word nowadays. But we're also looking at areas that have low canopy cover, that are very urbanized and have, large commercial districts, and that, because all of that could influence climate on a regional scale. So we want that discussion to start and continue, in the discussion for grants under the Carbon Act and all those other kind of grants. So it's,
I believe,
that's kind of,
correct me if I'm wrong, but as part of the inventory, when they were going around, they did identify tree pits, empty tree pits, and locations available for planting. So
how well is that matching up with all of the removals? And it seems like a lot of trees are collapsing and things. So has that added to it, you think? Or, I'm just thinking out loud here.
It has added to it. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
More are coming down in a lot of cases than are going back up. When the infrastructure projects, though, like the one we just talked about on Franklin Street happen, more are going in than are being removed.
Yeah.
So might be a little bit of a balancing act there, but outside of the infrastructure projects, I think there's more coming out, and that's why this tree planting grant is so critical for Kingston. It will give us at least another little bit of a boom in putting street trees in throughout the city.
Is somebody updating the inventory for this kind of that know of? Is anybody trained?
Well, we are updating it's hard to update with all the private property owners that are doing removals. I mean, the public infrastructure projects, they're obviously easier because we know, which ones are coming out. But we are updating the spreadsheets, and we do have someone here, Greg Krupp, who does GIS work. So he's able to map, make new maps for us. I think we're kind of getting away from using the Arbor Pro software because we only had a certain number of years for the license. So the future goal would be to have everything done, in GIS and have Greg do updates to the maps.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we may be in touch in the future.
Yeah, We're trying that. It's really difficult with all the removal applications. And, after people apply, we don't really know whether the work, it's hard to track whether they do the removals. We know that they've applied to do it, but, some of them are very expensive and may take a couple years for them to actually come down. So it's hard.
Yeah, unless it comes down on its own and hits something. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. Oh. Oh, great. Well, great.
Well, thank you, everyone. I have as our next meeting date, October 13th. That would be our regular meeting date. I don't know if anyone has an issue with that. It is the day after Columbus Day, which is a holiday weekend. But I'm going to keep it on that date unless I hear otherwise. If we don't have any additional new information or applications, I'll be in touch as to whether or not we need to have the meeting at all. Okay?
Can I just mention
Sarah.
one thing? This is just in things people might be interested in. They planted trees along Greenkill, along the Empire State Trail, and they look pretty good. And they put gator bags up on all of them. And there's like dozens of trees. And I actually asked one of the guys who was planting if they were planning to like put water in those bags. And he was like, I don't know, we may have, so I'm actually going to follow up with the contractor and find out. I mean, he thought they may have like subcontracted out the maintenance, but it would be nice to know that somebody's going to keep an eye on those trees, for the first few months and, not just throw
Yeah, they
them
looked
back.
empty.
So I just wanted to, but they did plant trees. Unfortunately, it's not the prettiest trail in the world, but.
Okay. All right. I guess we can call the DOT and ask. That would be Mark over there. We can call Mark.
I'll keep an eye on it. I don't think. I mean, somebody I'm sure is going to do it. I'm sure there's a contract, but it was nice to see some trees go in. It was a nice long row of trees. Some good news.
Yes. Okay. Anybody
just one
else?
last word on the gator bags. If these trees were just planted and the gator bags are empty, this is a very tough time for trees. This is when their roots start to grow,
right,
and do their thing. So those bags should be filled with water. Not in a month. If they are, this is when they're going to make it or not make it. This is when they're going to, this is like giving them a small amount of attention will pay off a big deal later. But if they're sitting there and it's going to be sunny for 7 days and the wind is 20 miles an hour, they're just going to, wick and draw and get tired. So, if they're not filled, then there's no. It's like having a scarf in your car. It's like, why have a scarf?
Suzanne, do you think would it be better to talk to DOT or to talk to the contractor?
Well, DOT is in charge of the project, so
are the trees guaranteed?
If there's a contract, they probably are.
I think that they are. Typically, they're guaranteed for a year.
Yeah. Okay.
I can send
like 2 cents. I don't know the politics of the money. But
I'll send Mark Tiano an email. They had their arborists come to the meeting, and I think they talked about them being watered and being having a contract. So I'll just mention that someone noted they were empty.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the bag, when I saw it, they were still literally putting the trees in the ground. But the nice thing with those bags is they don't have to do it that often, not every day, leave them for a couple weeks. All right, if you wouldn't mind, Kyla, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'll stop bugging people on the street.
Hi, this is Tebby. I just have a question. Can someone remind me, I'm sorry I can't get my camera to work. I don't know what the problem is, but can someone remind me what trees are going in on Pine Grove Avenue? I think I couldn't find it. I was searching my emails. I think it's buried in there somewhere, but someone mentioned what they're putting in, and I was just curious if you could remind me what that was, if anybody remembers.
I thought they were replacing the lindens.
They're the lindens?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that does sound familiar. Yeah, I was thinking London plane tree, and I thought, no, I don't think that's it. So linden trees, yeah.
The lindens are what they took down, so I think
Okay.
that was the plan.
Thank you.
Vince, you're muted. Are you?
Muted.
Sorry, I had to step out a minute, but I think Scott Dutton was proposing the plan. I think he had a landscaper and he was going to provide us with because they're going to do shrubs as well as trees.
Yes.
But I haven't
And he
seen,
is working on that.
right,
I think it's for spring, right?
right. So I don't know if he's proposing all lindens or some variety. And again, I think it shouldn't be a mono plant, but I think he's got a plan that he's working on to show us what the landscape is going to look like.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get those trees on Greenfield water.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. If there is nothing else, then I will see everybody next month on October 13th, unless you hear from me. If not soon. Actually, we'll probably see each other maybe out on Franklin Street. So
Yeah.
thank you, Sarah, for getting to go on that. Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Very good.
Great.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Jeez.